and thank you for joining us. This webinar is titled BC's Next Gold Mine, Blue Lagoon Resources Path to Production. My name is Marilyn de Guzman, and I will be your moderator for this event. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Rana Vig is the president and CEO of Blue Lagoon Resources. With over 30 years of business experience, Rana helped launch 5 business ventures in the private sector and has been involved in several publicly traded companies since 2010. Rana has served as president of Musgrove Minerals and as chairman and CEO of Continental Precious Minerals. He is also former chair of BC Open Learning Agency and serves on several public company boards and committees. He's a 2017 recipient of the Canadian Senate's 150th Anniversary Medal, awarded to top Canadians actively involved in their communities, making their hometowns and communities a better place to live. And I'll turn it over to Rana for his presentation.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm excited to share what I believe is one of the most exciting opportunities in today's market. If you're interested in gold or want gold exposure, I think that we have a very, very compelling story that I'm about to share with you here this afternoon. So with that, let's begin. I'd like to start with the traditional disclaimers. As you know, or may not know, we'll be making various forward-looking statements. I would encourage you to read our disclosure, our disclaimers at your leisure. Let's get into it here. So our project is in northern British Columbia. The Dome Mountain Mine. If you're familiar with northern British Columbia, this is Smithers, a small mining town. It's actually one of the busiest mining towns in the province. It serves all of the north and the Golden Triangle area. Our property is roughly 50 minutes from the town of Smithers that you can see here on the left here. And you can see here the road that goes right through the dark area here is our property, the Dome Mountain. And you can see the road that runs right through the property. And this little corner here is where our focus is, and that we're going to talk about our main boulder vein. So if you remember nothing else in this presentation, here's what I want you to remember. We are only one of 9 permits that have been issued in the last 10 years. Just a couple of months ago, we achieved what seemed impossible. It took us nearly 5 years, which everyone was congratulating me, but I thought it was 4 years too long, to be honest. It still took us 5 years, and we're only one of 9 permits that have been issued in the last 10 years. And if you look at number 3 and number 7 here, you can see those permits were actually for coal. So really only one of 7 in the last decade that have been issued. Now, this says a couple of things. Number one, it's extremely difficult to get a permit, so that that makes it unique, and the barrier of entry is high. And number 2, it speaks to our team. It speaks to the ability to execute. So hopefully this demonstrates that that ability to put something into to move something forward. This is our mine site. You can see here the infrastructure here in the right hand side here. You see here, this is the portal. There's about 1,000 meters of development that's already taken place. So when I founded this company back in 2019, I looked at over 200 projects, and one of the main reasons why I took on this project and decided to buy it was because it ticked one of the main boxes for me, which was, can it be permitted? There are many great projects out there, but man, I think I'll be in a wheelchair before those things ever get into production. So this one, we knew it could be permitted. I thought I could get it done much sooner, but it took us still, roughly 4.5 years, but here we are. So the development there has been about 1,000 meters of development, and we've invested about $40 million in putting in all this infrastructure, our company and the company that we acquired, to be able to get to the place where we are today. You can see here, this is the entrance of the portal. You can see here on the right hand side our rescue station that we put inside not too long ago. Here you can see inside here, you can see the infrastructure inside. You can see all the electrical that's been done. This is a recent photo that when I was up there 3 or 4 weeks ago. You can see the inside of the tunnel, some mining equipment that's already in place, a mechanic shop. This is our contract miner. So we're going to be contract mining this. One of the beauties and the advantages that I have is that the property is, as I mentioned, less than an hour drive from the town. So that allows me to attract a very, very senior people. And this guy here, for example, from Cobra Mining, Wayne Kendrick, just an incredible person who has a tremendous amount of experience, lives right there just outside of town. So everybody's happy that way, that they don't have to be out somewhere in the bush or somewhere for 2 or 3 months at a time. They can come right back and drive home. This gentleman actually, one of the other advantages that he has, he actually was mining this very same mine back in the Noranda days. So he's got a lot of experience and knows the project very well. The team, other than myself, you can read more about this on your own, but I do want to point out to the gentleman at the bottom right here, Steve Cutler. He's one of our mining consultants. He's extremely experienced in narrow vein mining. He's currently one of the people who are consultants at the Stillwater mine, which are narrow veins. So very, very experienced there. Peter Bojos, one of our advisors, has experience in over 80 countries and has been involved in operation of over 24 producing mines, openings, reopenings, production. He was up there just recently with me as well. So we have some. I've been able to surround myself with some incredibly talented people who are going to help us transition from exploration into production. Quinton Henney, some of you may know him. World-renowned geologist, technical consultant to Crescat Capital, who's a big shareholder of ours. It took me months and months to get Quinton's attention to take a look at this project, because he just, he likes to see really, really big, huge scale projects right from the get-go. And, he hadn't heard of this project before, but boy, I'll tell you, after we finally got his attention and after a 90-minute technical call, his very last words to us were, "You boys have a hidden gem here." So it's been a pleasure to be able to attract people like that who are in the know, who have been investing in our company for the last 3 or 4 years. And Crescat, of course, now is almost 10% of our cap table. So many of the decisions, because my background is not in mining or geology. I'm not an engineer or a geologist. The business decisions with this company that I have made and I'm continuing to make are surrounded by sound business principles, in my opinion. So one of the things that we did is we are going to be toll milling here, and one of the things that we did is, even though the metallurgy had been done prior to us acquiring this project, I wanted to reconfirm everything. So we have a long-term milling agreement with Nikola Mining, that has a state-of-the-art mill in Merritt. And one of the things that we did is, a couple of years ago, we took out 5,000 tons of mineralized material from the mine, and we sent it to Nikola to get it processed. And I wanted that was the purpose of that was twofold. One was to give us operational experience, because I knew the permit was coming at some stage. I wanted our team to get operational experience so we can be ready from day one once the mine got its permit and we could get into production. So this gave us about 4 months of operational experience. Number two, if you look at the bottom here, you can see the results were stellar. We got the mill reconfirmed 9 grams a ton of gold and a 95% gold recovery. So, which really is exceptional in my opinion. That allowed us to see firsthand, get a feeling firsthand of how it would feel to be in Nashville. You can see here one of the trucks that was sent out to Nikola, and that's our mineralized material that's being dumped on one of their pads. And behind it, you can see one of the conveyor belts that takes it up to the site. Here you can see me when we sent them the material up, being crushed, put into one of their primary crushers, and then moved up along the conveyor up to their secondary crusher, where it gets processed into the mill and turned into a gold. So here you can see what they do once that happens is they put it into these 1-ton bags of concentrate, and these bags will eventually make it on their way onto this one of the trucks that takes it out and is sold to, in our case, to Ocean Partners. And what wonderful about that is that we get paid instantly. So over those 4 months, you can see here, we got paid roughly 155,000 first, another 431,000, another 370,000, another 700. So all combined, about $1.7 million was paid to us in that with that very small amount. And back then, gold was only at about 1,800 gold. So it was pretty exciting to actually feel in real time what an operation feels like and how we can get paid in less than 30 days. So currently, this is another business decision, that I made. We have a path that I'm going to show you in a minute, a clear path to 1 million plus ounces. But the starting resource that we have right now is 218,000 ounces in the measured and indicated categories. That gives us a 15-year mine life. Now, the reason that's important is because, a couple of years ago, in my career, I've raised millions and millions of dollars. And I certainly could have raised more money in the last couple of years. But the reason I just decided not to do that is because, we would have like 1 billion shares out, right? And unless you're Australian, you don't particularly like that. North Americans don't like that. They want to see a much tighter share structure. So the plan from the very beginning was get a starter resource, which is what we have here, of 218,000 ounces, then take the cash flow once we get into production, and then follow up on all the drilling that we did so that we can increase the resource to a much better, bigger number, and of course extend the mine life. So you can see here the 218,000 ounces in the measured and indicated, and you can see the grades, 10.32 in the measured, 8.15 in the indicated, which gives us roughly a 9 gram per ton. And you can see at the bottom here, right, that we're using a 3.5 gram per ton cutoff. So fairly high a cutoff, which certainly we'll be reevaluating given these prices. You can see here our mine plan. So currently we have a 15-year mine plan. Here's the first 5 that we've submitted to the government. You can see the top left here. This is what the current workings look like. And then you can see here as we progress to year 1, year 2, 3, 4, and 5, how we're going to mine the structure here. I then took all my costs and I put it into a spreadsheet. And here you can see I created a little sensitivity chart for you to share with you. At 55,000 tons, where we're going to start, it's going to start at our first year of our first full year of production. We expect to be at 15,000 ounces, and you can see at 2,600 gold, we're going to generate just shy of $55 million in revenue. If you look at the current prices, of course, I mean, it's just insane. It's like $70 million. But I'm just focused on the base case at $2,600 gold. The revenue is pretty significant. As we move up next year, our plan is to get to 75,000 tons, and you can see we'll be at roughly 20,000 ounces. And again, at 2,600 gold, we're looking at north of $70 million in revenue. So very, very important time to be getting into production. We couldn't have hit a better time. I mean, it's just incredible what's happening, with the prices of gold right now. So that's our base, right? So there's really 3 parts to our story, right? Part number 1 is what I just showed you, which is production. We are near term. And, people often ask me, well, that's great that you got the mining permit. So what do you need? Another 20, 30, 40, $50 million to put into production? No, we have the capital that's required. And that's why we are expecting to be in production in the next 60 days. Our team, as we speak, is up at the mine site and is doing the last preparatory work to get this into production, and we fully expect it to be there this summer. Our official opening is July 9th, and we'll do a little bit of pre-development work, and then we'll be actually shipping mineralized material out to Nikola for processing. So the first part is the production, and that we're fully cashed up and don't require any capital at this moment to actually get into production. The second part of our story is I'm going to show you is our path to 1 million ounces. As I mentioned, we have our starter resource. Well, how do we increase that now, right? So the second part of the story is the path to 1 million ounces. So here you can see again the dark area, which is our property. It's 22,000 hectares. This is the road from Smithers that runs right through our property. And the bottom left-hand corner where you see this bottom square, that's where all the focus is. That's less than 10% of the property. The rest of the property hasn't even been touched yet. Now, we did do some geophysics. We flew the area, and I'll share with you in a second. You'll see the whole thing just lit up. And many people were just amazed and said, how come we never heard about this property? How come we never knew about this project? Well, of course, it was in private hands for many, many years, and they had no interest in going public. So it was completely under the radar. So if we take a look at this bottom left corner, this square, and we go to the next screen here, this is now the enlargement of that bottom left-hand corner. And you can see here the diamond in the middle, that's where the current portal is. The solid line is the current resource of 218,000 ounces. The dashed line here is drilling that we've done in 2022, 23. We did over 50,000 meters of drilling in and around this area here. There's also 15 other veins. You can see here, these lines here, there's other 15 other veins in and around the immediate area of the current mine, the current boulder vein. But our focus has been strictly on this boulder vein. So if we take a look at now, again, the diamond is the portal. The solid line is the current resource of 218. The dashed line is some of the drilling that we did. If we go to the next screen here, hang on. Next here on the right-hand side, you can see that's the solid line. That's the current resource that we have. On the left-hand side was the dash line that I just showed you, and you can see the drilling that we did. All of these lines, these vertical lines, you can see that's the drilling. It's all mineralized. So all we need to do now is infill this, right? We infill drill this every 25 or so meters, and it'll look like what we have on the right-hand side here, and that's how we grow the resource there. And then we also went 150 meters below the known resource. And you can see down here, and you can see on the right here, over 3 meters of over 18 grams a ton. So it was very exciting because not only does the grade, not only is it open to the east and the west, but as we go deeper, the grades are getting higher. And what also got my technical team very excited is that the copper numbers were increasing, which seems to indicate possibly that we're getting closer to the source. So, it's just very, very robust results here. And you can see here some other results here, double-digit gold, anywhere from 4 meters to 7 meters. Again, great numbers throughout. Then if you take a look at this screen here, you can see here's again the main boulder vein. What's beyond that, right? Well, look at this on the right-hand side here, this shadow here. This looks like a clear extension of this vein here. So that'll require some follow-up drilling that we plan to be doing, very, very soon here. And then if we plot all the some of the drill holes that I just showed you, you can see at this slide here, the dark gray area is the current 218,000 ounces in our measured and indicated. This here, the white here, is the current mine. So you can see this is what we're going to mine out. And then the white area here, you can see all the different pierce points, the drill holes here. Between this white area and this dark gray area, we believe we have 1 million ounces there. You can see the dark gray is 530 meters wide by 200 meters deep here. So the white obviously is much larger. So combine the white with the dark gray, and we believe that we have 1 million ounces just sitting. And remember, I'm still only talking about just the one vein, the boulder vein. And then, of course, the blue here is the blue sky. As we get deeper, as we extend this further, where does it go, right? We'll see but certainly we're very excited. So I told you there's 3 parts of the story. Number 1 was the near-term production capability. And by near-term, of course, I mean here this summer. And number 2, the path to 1 million plus ounces, which I've just showed you here. And by the way, this has all been news released. You can go back to some of our news releases and you'll see all the various drill results that we've put in the public domain that support everything that I'm showing you here right now. And then also, what's beyond that? The third part of our story, right? What's beyond that 1 million ounces? Well, when we were drilling here a couple of years ago, just to the north of the boulder vein, and again, here's the boulder vein. You can see all the little blue dots. That's all the drilling that we've done. And then just to the north of it, we had a new discovery, and we're very, very excited about that. And now it's time to go and use our cash to follow up on that drilling, along with this extension here that we see here on the right, the Boulder Vein extension. So we're very excited about that. And then if we take a look at that on this slide here, you can see the trend. You can see the trend running here, north-south here, and number 5 here. We've got a number of targets here. You can see here 2, 3, 4. This number 5 is where we want to put our immediate attention to, because again, if we enlarge in that, you can see the Boulder Vein here to the south here to the bottom, and this north of that number 5. This looks like a very clear, very strong porphyry target. So we're very, very excited about that, and we'll be following up on that. So, there's a lot of blue sky here, right? So we've got production that we're about to start here this summer. We'll take some of that cash flow and we'll put it into infill so that we can grow that 218,000 ounces to a million plus that we believe that's there. All high grade, we believe. In fact, the vein that's right next to it, we believe is the numbers are showing us at 14 grams a ton. So we're excited about expanding into that. So and the third part, of course, is this blue sky and following up in these targets in the new discoveries that we had. And then the last piece that I'll talk about is how do we grow bigger? How do we make sure that the project is sustainable? And part of that is our relationships with the Lake Babine Nation. It's very, very important in Canada, and particularly in BC, to make sure that you have a complete support from the Indigenous groups that you're working with. We work with the Lake Babine Nation, just a wonderful group of people. And one of the things that we did early on is to learn a little bit more about their culture. And one of the things they talk about is Yinta. And Yinta effectively means, be one with the land, respect the land. And by learning that philosophy, we were like, okay, well, how do we implement that? How do we make sure that every day we are thinking about the Yinta? Any business that you want to be in, you want to make sure that you keep it clean, you keep it, you respect it, you make sure that you don't violate any principles that would hurt that business. And this is mining exploration should be no different. So to make sure that Yinta was constantly top of mind, what we did is we hired a local artist, Bernice Nichols, you'll see here, and we had her make these giant murals that reflected something about the Lake Babine culture. And we had these framed, as you can see here in this slide. We had these framed, and then we took them and we put them in various different parts of the site. So here you're seeing the entrance of the mine site, and you see the hereditary chiefs there when they came out. I mean, they were just completely in awe. They were completely in disbelief and so thankful. They said that this is incredible that you guys are consciously thinking about this. We took various images and we put them in on the different buildings. So here's our water treatment building, and you can see here the image is different. So we took different images and put them in different buildings. And the idea behind that is to make sure that we are constantly remembering and thinking about the Yinta every single day, and to respect the land. And lastly, I mean, here's our share structure. You can we have some pretty strong shareholders. Crescat Capital, which I talked about earlier, they are roughly 10% now, our cap table. They've been involved with us for roughly 3 years. They've been involved in almost every financing, have been tremendous supporters, and really believe in the project. Phoenix Gold Fund, based out of Kuala Lumpur, they're about 6% of our cap table now. Once again, been great supporters and have been see the vision that we have, and have been involved for some time. And then Nicola, our toll mill partner, gave us a tremendous thumbs up when they came last year to take a look at the mine, along with one of their directors, who's an engineer, put many mines into production, and really, really liked the project. In fact, loved it so much that they invested $1 million into the company, and now own about 6% of the company. In fact, Peter Espig himself, the president of the company, has participated in a number of financings. It just gives us a tremendous confidence that people who are in the know, certainly people who are a lot more smarter than I am in the mining industry, who are in the know, have come and invested in this project that's giving us further validation. And then myself, my family, and a couple of key founding shareholders, right? We have put a couple $1 million into the company ourselves and own about 14%, and the rest is all retail. So fairly spread out. So there you have it. That's pretty much our story, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions at this point.
Thank you, Rana, for that presentation. And we do have some questions coming in already. I think first question, you've mentioned with full funding secured and production anticipated to commence by December 2025. What are some of the critical operational milestones that you're focused on achieving between now and the start of production?
Sorry, did you say December 2025?
Sorry, summer 2025.
Yes, yeah. Don't put. I've been waiting a long time, so don't make us wait any further. No, we'll be in operation here this summer. The key milestone is our water treatment plant. We are right now just putting the final touches on that to finish that up and getting ready to start that and testing that. So that really is the key milestone, which we expect to have done here this month. So by the end of the month, that water treatment plant will be up and running. And once that is the case, really the next step is really to do a little bit of development. My team has asked, one of the things that I've asked the people around me, my technical team, is, what can go wrong here, right? I'm a very conservative individual, so I wanted to, from a business perspective, always understand, how do we de-risk this, continue to de-risk this. And one of the things they told me is, well, it would be great if we could do a little bit more development. So I've said, no problem. Tell me what you need. So we're going to spend about 6 weeks and do a little bit more pre-development or development so that we can have multiple phases to work on. So that's really the next two key things, right? We'll finish the water treatment plant, do a little bit of development, and later this summer start shipping mineralized material out to Nikola and wait for the checks to arrive.
And we do have a question here about the Nikola mill. What is the transportation cost per ton for to go to Nikola's mill?
Some of those are sort of confidential internal numbers, but how I can say that is that basically it's industry standards, right? The mill is charging us industry standard rates. So there's nothing out of the ordinary out of that. I'm not quite sure how more I can answer that question without disclosing, what I really can't.
And then follow up to that, do they have, as one attendee saying is that he understands Nikola is already milling other ores. Do they have enough capacity and are permitted to process more when you're going to 20K tons per year?
Yeah, absolutely. The Nikola just actually started processing some of their ore, and we've been in communication, with them to make sure that there's no hiccups, and there are none. Now, we have a long-term milling agreement with them, and Peter has assured me that there's no issues there. We are their priority, and well, remember, they're also invested. They own 6% of our company, and he himself is invested in us. So I think we're in good shape. But yeah, we are definitely their priority, and they definitely have capacity to handle our material as well as their, and they're also looking at expanding. So that's not one of the things that's keeping me up at night at all.
And with regards to your relations with the First Nations people, could you give us one of the questions asking to give us more details on on your relationship with the local communities and the First Nations? Maybe give us some insights on, what worked in terms of building that relationship. What are the key learnings that you've had?
Well, I think it's transparency and honesty, right? I mean, I think we started when we started with them, the first step was to listen to the concerns, right? I mean, it's not my job to go and lecture to anybody or tell them this is what we're going to do. So, our approach was simply to listen. What are your concerns? How can we be partners in this? And, we right from the get-go acknowledge that, we understand their rights, and we understand, we want to understand, what would they like to see from us? And that really, I think, paid dividends. And also just being conscious of, what is it that we would like if we were on the other side? What would we like to see? One of the most important aspect of this is water, right? I mean, salmon and fishing is more than just food. It's a way of life, for them, right? So we were very, very concerned with that. So I'll give you one example. So we didn't wait until to see what were the requirements for testing for us. So for example, on one stream, if we were required to do 5 different sites to test. And when we came back and discussed with our team, we felt we should be testing at 9 sites. So we did. So when they learned of that, they were very pleased that, oh, you did this on your own without somebody putting a gun to your head and saying to you, no, you have to do this. So I think when you approach things in an honest and transparent manner, people see that. They see the genuineness and they see the caring, and that was and then similar to what I just showed you earlier in our presentation about respecting the Yinta, all those things, together, is what built the relationship.
Another question. In your historical database of drilling, do you see variations in the gold grade from vein to vein? Do you think the grade is consistent at the Boulder vein? And what about the other intersections you had always in terms of grade and gold and silver?
Yeah, most of our focus so far has been on the Boulder vein, right? We've done very little work on the other veins, although there is historical data. Naranda, for example, just south of the main Boulder vein, took out about 20,000 ounces, and what it looks like with double-digit numbers, 20 grams a ton plus, so very, very high grade. But on the Boulder vein, we're seeing a lot of consistency. The vein is about 2.5 to about 7 meters, but averages around 2.5 meters and doesn't pinch and swell much. And we've seen some pretty good consistency we've drilled about 50,000 meters in and around that area. So, we have enough data to give us certainly confidence in our numbers.
Another question. If you have the funds to start mining soon, why do you need more shareholders? Please.
Oh, well, you always need shareholders. So if the question is, why am I doing this presentation? You always need more shareholders, but that doesn't mean you're going to raise money. You constantly, my job, as I learned this from Robert McEwen, one of the greatest, who built one of the greatest mining companies in Canada. I heard him talk one time, and he says you have to be constantly talking your story. You have to be constantly telling your story to the public, because that's how you grow, right? So the purpose of this webinar is not to ask people for money, because we're not raising any money, but it is to get it on their radar. It is to make sure that they're aware of who we are, because as we build the company, you want more and more people talking about it. People forget that every great mining company started with one mine. In 1957, Agnico started with one mine, and today they have 11. And I don't think they were quiet all that time, right? They were spreading the word, they were telling people, and through that comes momentum, and great things happen. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think one of the most, interesting thing about your mine is, you are one of a handful of companies that have managed to get permitting in the last, permitting to open a mine, in the last 9 years. Maybe you can share some of the insights or learnings that you've had in terms of how to successful permitting, and what are the, what you did right, basically, so to share with that.
You're getting me to tell my secrets. I don't want other companies to get permitted here. So
or as you can share.
No, I'm teasing. Look, it's a tough environment. It's all the business I've done, I think this is one of the toughest that I've seen. That it's a tough environment because you've got all these government regulations that, in my opinion, especially for the smaller mines, are really need to be re-looked at. And I think the government, to their credit, is doing some of that now, because they're talking about speeding up some of these processes. So but it's difficult. You've got I think ministries that are understaffed, right? And while we were doing this process, we changed 6 or 7 or 8 different project coordinators. The lead people who are who were working with us, kept changing. So you got people who are constantly on the move. You got people who are you got under financed ministries, and then you've got these new agreements. We were one of the first ones with the Lake Baby Nation. It was one of the first agreements in the province that we had to go by. So nobody knew what was happening. So you had to learn all that. So what did we learn? You've got to be very patient. You've got to be very patient. You have to be willing to listen. Because you have to figure out what is important to each entity that you're talking to, whether it's the ministry, what's really important to them, right? With the Lake Baby Nation or the other indigenous groups that you're working with, what really motivates them? It's not necessarily money, right? So, there's a lot of lessons, that we learned, but I think the greatest one, I think, was, patience, listening, and transparency. Be upfront and honest, and make sure that you want to build a long-term relationship. I think that's key.
Another question, would it be financially reasonable to build a Blue Lagoon mill?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to start, in fact, that process very soon to go ahead and start that permitting process. Why we didn't do it right now is because it would have taken me, and who knows how many more years, and 40, 50, 60 more $1 million. And the last thing I want to do is miss this goal cycle. So from a business perspective, it just made sense to get into production immediately, as soon as possible, to get and start the cash flow, and then start that process on the side, which we intend to do very soon.
Another question here. Can you talk about more about the risk for more exploration activities?
Well, I'm not sure what they mean by risk. I mean, there's always risk, I suppose, but I mean, it's de-risked because we've done a significant amount of work. We've done, the geophysics, significant data that's come out of there. That's very, very promising. So we know where the targets are that we can go after. The in 50,000 meters, that drilling that we talked about has clearly defined. We know where we need to go infill to increase the resource. So I think the short term is fairly de-risked. Now, the outside of that sort of 10% of the property, where we go, there's always risk. Now, we have done almost 5,000 soil samples, so there's a lot of targets. So I think it'll be quite a while before I see anyways, some significant risk of not hitting mineralization, because from what the data that we've had so far, we have many, many targets to go after and follow up on.
Another question here about your relationship with the Lake Baby Nation. Can you speak about the benefit sharing mechanisms agreed upon with Lake Baby?
Yeah, so we have an agreement with the Lake Baby Nation that talks about job opportunities and training, contract opportunities. So all of those are open and available to them. And my approach, again, has been very, very straightforward and transparent. I've communicated to them that I have absolutely no issues of hiring anyone from the Lake Baby Nation, as long as they can meet or exceed the qualifications. Mining is a dangerous business, right? We've got to, safety is number one. So as long as that people can perform the jobs, the operations, I have zero hesitancy in bringing them. So there's already, we're speaking to them, and as we're getting ready, so there's job opportunities, there's contract opportunities that we're speaking to them about. Now, they have to have the capacity to, of course, fill those roles in some of those areas. They don't, but we're also willing to train. One of the we're setting up 5 scholarships for young people, and we're also in the process of offering a training for people who want to come. What an opportunity to actually learn from some very, very experienced people, somebody who wants to be in the mining business, learn underground mining. So we've already spoken to our contractors about that, and he said he'd be delighted. So there's all sorts of opportunities. It's just going to depend now on what the ability, what the capacity the Lake Baby Nation people have. Because remember, it's a fairly small community. So you've got your elderly, you've got your children, and then you've got this, a small group of people who potentially can work or have business opportunities. But but we'll certainly make them available, not 100%.
I'm gonna combine two questions here. What is your approximate cost per ounce? And with revenue of $72 million, how much net earning are you looking at?
Well, that's a question, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to answer because, we don't have a PEA. We don't have any economic studies done on this. So my hands are kind of tied on that. We have, of course, internal numbers and that show us where we can go, but I can't really talk about that publicly. But you know what? It's not that difficult to figure out. If I can say, we're not different than, most mining companies. So, you can see the revenue and you can kind of determine what the costs potentially are going to be. But you know what? And also, if I may say, we're only months away. As soon as we start mining, of course, we'll be releasing those numbers publicly in our disclosures. At which point, I'll have a much more ability to talk, to speak about that. But having said that, let me just assure you that we're not aggressively going after this, and I'm not sitting here talking to you folks here on here unless we thought the numbers were good. You see the smile on my face? I'm smiling for a reason.
It says all that you need to share. So an exploration question, what method contributed to determining the extension of veins under the surface, and is the area complex in structural geology?
Boy, that's a question really for my technical team. I'm not a technical person. I mean, is the geology complex? Yeah, they tell me that it is. This is a structurally hosted quartz veins that we're talking about. So yeah, they tell me that the geology is a little bit tough, but I don't know. So far, they haven't complained a whole lot, and they've certainly shown some significant results. But I'm happy for any technical questions and specific questions like that. I'm happy to do any follow-up. If any of the viewers want to email me, if you go to our website, bluelagoonresources.com, and you email there, it'll come to me, and I'm happy to do a follow-up with our technical team or answer any questions via email, technical questions, and get those to you just so that I get it right and not give you the wrong information.
We do have some other technical questions here, which I can just send to you later on.
Okay.
Another question, does the company have any loans outstanding?
Nothing significant. We have no short-term loans. We have a small amount of loans that we inherited when we bought the company, and those are to be paid over almost 3 years after the commencement of production. They're all disclosed in our financials. It's nothing significant, and it's over 3 years. Every quarter we'll pay out a little bit.
Another question, are you open for capital investment from another mining company?
Something strategic. I mean, if something strategic comes along, my job is to make sure that we explore every opportunity, take a look at every opportunity. So, absolutely, I would be open if it makes sense. If it makes sense, my job is to enhance and grow the shareholder value, and if that strategic alliance or investment makes sense, absolutely, we would look at it.
There's another question here. This fellow is from Sierra Leone, West Africa. Is it possible to partner up for gold business in Sierra Leone? Is it possible to be your gold buying agent for Sierra Leone?
No, we are our focus is strictly here in BC, and we want to stick to that. Certainly, we'll look at potential other projects in North America if that makes sense for the company to grow. I mean, but we've got so much work just on this project alone to do and to grow that it probably doesn't make sense for us to do anything else. And certainly not in Africa. And in terms of buying, no, because we have an agreement with Nikola, and they further have an agreement with Ocean Partners to take the concentrate. So I don't see any opportunity there, unfortunately.
What are the first 3 uses of foreseen cash income?
The first 3 uses, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
Well, certainly the first 2 are really easy. The first is we're going to use some of that cash to do infill drilling because we want to grow that resource, right? We want to make sure that this mine is in production for decades and decades to come. So that'll be the infill drilling to increase the resource to move it towards that 1 million ounce that we believe we have there. The second will be exploration drilling. The blue sky. Right, the market always likes to see, that hey, there's a bigger find here, and we believe that we have numerous targets that are very, very compelling. So we'll take some of that cash and then we'll put it into that. And then the third part, we'll have to evaluate as we go along. I mean, certainly, I'm open to taking a look at possibly a small dividend, depending on the cash and bringing the price of gold. I'm certainly looking at maybe launching an issuer bid that's to support the stock and maybe buy back some of the stock, which we're allowed to do as a public company to support the stock and fend off some of these algorithms, et cetera. So that we're going to have to kind of evaluate as we go along.
Another question, are you planning to, wait, sorry, it disappeared. Are you planning to be listed on TSX for more public exposure?
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at that, and there are discussions, and definitely there's a lot of people who feel that we should move to the TSX, and that is certainly something that we're looking at. I don't know how much more exposure it gives you. I mean, I like the CSC. I've worked with them for many years. I brought, in fact, two of the biggest deals outside of the mining space, two of the biggest deals ever in the history of the CSC. I took them public on the CSC, so there was plenty of exposure. In fact, in one company, we did $100 million of volume in one day, right? So I think it's there, but I think there is value in the TSX as the company grows. To European investors, often like that, and Asian investors like that. So we are looking at that, and I think you're going to probably see something here in the near future.
So with the fully funded mining operations, what are your key strategies for maintaining cost efficiencies and optimizing operational expenditures as you transition into active production?
Well, that's really comes down to the experience of the people that we have around us, right? That's why, we brought in some very, very experienced people, right? Steve Cutler from Rough Stock Mining, who I mentioned earlier, who are one of the contractors for Stillwater, extremely experienced, have worked in dozens and dozens of mines as supervisors, managers, operators, contractors. So they know, Peter Bojos, who's been involved, as I mentioned, in over 80 countries in 24 plus mine operations. These are very, very experienced people who are sitting down with me to help me not reinvent the wheel, right? There's nothing new that we're doing here. So it's really going to come down to people and to looking at our situation exactly on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter basis to make sure that we are keeping everything in control. And you know what? Look, I'm Indian, okay? So I'm cheap by nature. So I watch every penny like a hawk. And fortunately, my team has really attuned to that. So we are all very, very conscious of every single penny that we spend, and have plans to constantly monitor that. Yanis Sitos, who's one of our advisors, very, very familiar with moving from exploration to development to production, who's heading our mining committee. So people like that. He took a company called Gold Source, who had a couple 100,000 ounces to 2 million ounces, and sold it. So when you have the right people, the right team around you, cost controls become much easier because they've been there, they've seen the mistakes, and they help you not repeat those same mistakes.
Another question here, what is the possibility of offering dividends to shareholders in the future?
I think it's a very real possibility. I think we have to, as I talked about, but I think we have to evaluate, my job, part of my job is to evaluate, what is going to be the best use of that cash that we start to accumulate. And if we feel that, a dividend is part of that best increases shareholder value, then absolutely we'll do that, and we're open to that.
Another question, are you planning to release an updated technical report?
Yes. Yes, we will be. We just haven't done that yet. Again, I've been on a sort of a cost saving mode, and that's another reason why we didn't increase the resource, because again, as I mentioned earlier, if we had raised more money, the share structure would have increased, and would have been, I think, undesirable. And I don't think the market would have cared. I don't think the market would have cared if we went from 218 to 518, 418, 618. But we would have increased a lot of our share count. So we will release. So now that as we get into production, in fact, the drilling that we did a couple of years ago is not included in the current technical report. So we will definitely update that here later this year.
So how soon after production starts do you plan to resume or expand exploration drilling? And how would you balance ongoing mining operations with continuing exploration efforts?
Well, I think it'll be a percentage of the cash that we have as we evaluate the opportunity. So yeah, the drilling that we will do will most likely start early next year because we want to get the first 5-6 months under our belt, just nice, safe, smooth operation that we want to kick off, and then early next year, as we have accumulated some cash, is when we'll start with most likely with the infill first, and then start with the follow-up exploration drilling.
Another question. You're quite an experienced businessman from other industries. What drew you to mining in this mine in particular?
Well, after 2008 and 9, my businesses were suffering just like everybody else. As you recall, the financial sector, I mean, it was just mayhem. I mean, it looked like the world was collapsing. No one had ever seen anything like that in our generation anyways, right? So my mentor, a very good friend of mine who had made most of his early money in mining, suggested that I leave my private world and come into his exciting world of the capital markets. So I was looking for a change. That really is what drew me in here. It wasn't had to be mining. If he had suggested something else, I probably would have gone into something else. But because his experience was, one of his first successes, and he was very successful. One of his first successes was selling Desert Sun to Yamana back in, I believe it was in the 80s for $750 million. So they had some very, very big wins. So he brought me into this sector in 2011. I put 7 figures, by the way, into the sector, and by 2012 it were like 3 figures. It was like the whole mining sector collapsed, and I'm like, wow, what a nice friend. What did you get me into? But adversity teaches you, right? I'm a big boy, so I took over these mining companies and started learning, and then it just became a challenge. It just became a challenge, because they kept saying every year, look, it's going to turn 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It wasn't turning. The mining sector just wasn't turning. And that's when I pivoted to another industry. And, because you have to do that. You have to, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, I couldn't wait forever, right? I mean, if I was a geologist or a mining engineer, I guess perhaps I would have stuck into that because that's my job, but I'm not that. So I started looking to see what other industries were working. And the hottest industry at the time I picked, and took 2 companies in that industry public. The first one raised $520 million. It was a $6 billion RTO. The stock went to $20. The second one was a $300 million raise and was sold a couple of years ago for $2.1 billion. Again, the stock went to double digits. So you kind of look at things and you pivot where you need to do. But in 2019, I decided to come back into this because I kind of got the bug, right? Mining is exciting, and gold in particular, and because I'm Indian, my culture loves gold. Everything I was reading in the macro picture back then, told me that gold has to take off at some point. And to answer why this project, I looked at over 200 projects. And when I looked at this one of my main criteria was, can I get it permitted and cash flowing? Because my training as a business person is that. And those years of 13 and 14, 15, 16, 17, all those lean years, what I learned is that all these companies, they raise money to explore, and hardly any of them ever get into cash flow. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into cash flow. And this project was one major tick mark that I saw, that I knew I could get this permitted and into production. So here we are.
We have time for two more questions. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the operational or production milestones that you're looking at that will define success in the first year of your Dome Mountain operation?
Well, we have our plan, dictates that we do 15,000 ounces the first year, right? So a full operation. Now, we're going to start here in the summer, and the first sort of 2 or 3, 4 months are going to be kind of pre-development, development, and we'll get a few hundred ounces. But once we start, which I expect to be fully later this year, then our first year I expect to be 15,000 ounces. So that will that's one of the milestones for me personally to say, okay, we succeeded because that's what we said we were going to do that, and we just did. And then the second one will be moving to the next vein. We have a vein that's 90 meters away that we plan to put a decline in. That one is like grades at 14 grams a ton, and that's going to help us move to 20,000 ounces. So the next will be to see, okay, we can actually move this now up to 20,000 ounces. So those will be the first couple of milestones I think that we'll see that'll give us confidence that we're succeeding.
And looking beyond that initial production phase, what is Blue Lagoon Resources' long-term vision for the Dome Mountain Gold Project? I understand you mentioned, you have 15-year mine life for the 200,000 ounces. Like, what's the long-term vision for that mine?
Well, that 15-year mine life, of course, is if we do nothing else, right? That 218,000 ounces, if we do nothing else, of course, that's not our plan. We're going to do something, and we're going to increase that. So this will be in production for a very long time. Well, look, that's a great question. It's a difficult question to answer because it really is going to depend on the opportunities that are presented to us. So, well, let's look at that. What are the opportunities? Well, number one can be take the cash flow and just drill, right? Just drill and see how fast and how big we can make this project, because it looks like it's very robust. So that's number one. Number two is there an acquisition opportunity? I already have a couple of companies talking to me to say, hey, maybe it would just make sense to merge or you buy us, because there are other companies that have great projects but don't have the money. Capital is still very, very difficult to raise, and in this environment. So maybe that's a play here that we buy something and we grow from 20 to 40, 50, 60,000 ounces and beyond. That would be a good strategy. Or is it an acquisition for us? Now, personally, I don't think I'm not interested in selling out because it's just too cheap. We're just getting started. So the answer that I'm trying to provide you here is that it really is going to depend. As a good business person, I think my job is to evaluate all the opportunities as they are presented at the time, and then make a decision on what makes sense at that time that will help to build shareholder value. And that could be continue to expand, continue to infill. When I say expand, continue to expand our exploration, expand our resource, look at acquisition opportunities or merging opportunities. And I think there's going to be plenty. I know of numerous companies. I can think of several just off the top of my head that would be great opportunities for us at the right time here in the next 12 to 24 months.
Options for sure. As we wrap up, maybe Rana, if you want to provide, our attendees some of the key takeaways, like the key messages you want to convey to our attendees today as we wrap up.
Sure, thank you. Well, look, I think the key message here is that if you are interested in having gold exposure, and you already own some physical gold, and but of course the upside on that is limited. That's more of a safety net that you're building. If you are interested in getting exposure in a solid opportunity exploration company moving into production, then I think that the Blue Lagoon Resources is certainly something that you want to seriously look at. Take beyond this webinar. I think it's something that you want to take a serious look at, because there are not many companies. I cannot think of many companies. Well, I spoke at an industry event not too long ago, and there was 200 people in the room, and I asked them, please, is there anyone who can raise their hand who can think of the last exploration company that went into production, and not one person, this was two months ago, not one person could put up their hand. So, we are in a very, very rare situation where, because of the price of gold, we are at a perfect timing. So if you're looking for that exposure to a company that is about to go into production in a very, very hot gold market that's going to produce cash flow, then I don't know of any other better opportunity than Blue Lagoon Resources. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at that. And happy to ask, as I said, email me. I'm always available. Happy to always speak to shareholders and answer any and all questions that they have.
You will leave it at that. Thank you again, Rana, for presenting your company today and for answering all the questions.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.